Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're just doing a really quick fun project, key fobs. So today in the video I'm going to show you how to do an all fabric one and a half fabric, half vinyl one. And I'm going to give away the measurements and everything. So if you'd like to see how I've made these, please stay tuned. Right, so for this project you are going to need one of the key fob ends. And then you can either do an all fabric one, which requires 4 inches by 14 inch piece of fabric. So that's this one. And then I folded it in half and then put both the raw edges into the center and folded it over like that. Or you can use 2 inches by 14 inches of vinyl and 1.5 inches by 14 inches of fabric. And then I've just folded the 2 raw edges into the center. So I'm going to show you how to do both. And I've got my leatherwork pliers. So they're smooth in here so that they won't leave any marks on the key fob ends. I have seen that you can get cam presses that will squish these down. They're like plates you can set in, but I don't make these often enough to need those. But you can get them on the cam website. So let's start with our all fabric one. So I've literally, all I did was I haven't got any interfacing in it because it is a quilting cotton, but I have folded it in half to find the center, and then I just folded both sides into the center, steamed that, and then folded it in half, made sure everything lined up before I steamed it, and then shot it with steam as well. So you might want to think about your placement. I'm quite happy with that being the outside because the other side isn't very exciting. It's more flames and less skulls. So I always like to sew with the top side up. So I'm just going to start at one of the raw ends. I'm going to stitch and back stitch. We just like to do 2 back stitches. And then I'm stitching 1/8 of an inch from the edge of the folded side of fabric. So you always want to do the fold side first. Because if anything needs pulling and realigning, once we do the other side, it will all straighten out. So I'm just going to sew down this end. Now, you're not going to see these ends because they'll be tucked into here. So instead of just tying it off, I'm going to sew across because it's quicker. And then I'm going to sew 1/8 of an inch down this side. Ooh, or not. That was my bobbin. I should have probably changed to just a normal sewing needle. This one's possibly a bit thick for just fabric. I've got a size 18 in. I should have left the size 14. Either way, I'm going to sew down here, back stitch. And then back stitch here. Pull it out and trim those tails. And then we just pick the outside and make it on the outside like this. And then I'm going to line up these ends. Now, if you want to, you can sew them together so that they're not going to shift on you. You also don't have to do this. But this is just, you know, one extra step that may help you line it up better. And then I'm going to take this end, and I've got some fuzzies. So I don't know if you can see that. But see how I've got some fuzzy bits? I want to cut them off so that they're not going to hang out the sides. You may even want to singe them with the blue part of the flame, not the red part. You will discolor it. Not that you're going to see it, but still. It's a good habit to get into. And so then I'm just going to line that up right in the middle there. Grab my pliers. And this is where it gets a little bit tricky. If you can bend it with your hands, you may wish to. So I'm going to I can actually bend that with my fingers. So I'm just going to get it to that point like that so that it's kind of attached. And then I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to squish with both hands at the end as hard as I can. Right, and so that is now properly attached. I'm pulling as hard as I can on that, and we're good. So that's just an all fabric one. So this is really good for scraps. It's a great scrap busting gift. They're good teacher gifts. And so the other one, this was a leftover strip of vinyl, which is why I chose blue. So we're going to just take some double-sided tape and stick it approximately in the center. Now, if you can't eyeball the center yet, and I promise it does come with practice, you can just rule a line 1 inch from an edge and then put your double-sided tape over that line, and then we're going to fold both sides into that center line. Now, I can do it by looking. So the way I do it is I pinch it together and then push down. And what that does is it centers it for me. So I didn't need to draw the line. Like this. So that is now in the center. Now I'm just going to rub it on the edge of my table to help get that crease nice and in there. And then I'm going to take my fabric piece. Now this is deliberately a little bit smaller so that from the top we are going to see a little bit of the vinyl on both sides. You can make these so that they are the same size, but I actually find those harder to sew. I know that sounds odd, but if you're trying to perfectly line up both edges, it does take a lot more skill to iron it perfectly even. Whereas because I've done the 1.5 inch piece, it's now a 3/4 inch wide. So I'm just going to put it in the middle and have an even gap on both sides. And I find that personally easier. But you can do it either way. I also like the little detail of the vinyl poking out. You could also do a second color of vinyl for this and then just have like a 1/2 inch strip of colored vinyl down the center. That would look fun. So I'm going to stitch across the end just because it's quicker than back stitching and tying off. And I have less tails to trim. So I'm just tucking under that fabric as I go. And then I'm going to back stitch when I get to the end because I want to lock those stitches in. Trim off my tails. I've got a little bit of extra fabric here because sometimes it does stretch, but it's fine. So then again, we're going to put the wrong sides together to create the loop. And I'm going to line up these ends. Now this one I won't sew. You can do it without sewing. It's just that little bit easier if you do. Then I'm going to squish it with my fingers as best I can, which should just hold it in place. And then I'm going to take my pliers, and again, I'm going to come down to this end because you'll get the most amount of squish. And using 2 hands, I'm going to squish that together as best I can. And so then, that is our vinyl one. Super quick projects and great scrap busters. So there we go. I would see how this one's a little bit twisty. I'm going to go back and iron this. And I will iron it from the inside like this so that I don't leave a harsh crease at the end. But I will iron that some more just to give it a little bit more flatness. But other than that, they are done. Really, really fast project. So come show me the ones that you've decided to do and see if you can get fancy. In fact, if you have an embroidery machine, you could embroider on some stuff before you pop them on here. That would be super fun too. All right, guys. Till next time. Bye-bye.